One of the greatest requests God makes of us is to trust Him with everything that we are and with all that we have. Now, even though we cannot see Him or how He works behind the scenes, He constantly proves Himself faithful even in the most dire situations. Today, I would like to teach you some Spanish with two of the most well-known verses in the book of Proverbs, verses 5 and 6 of chapter 3. You know, the ones that begin with, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart." If you follow along to the very end, you will be reading and reciting these wisdom-filled verses in Spanish this very day, so stay with me. Hello amigos, Roberto here, and welcome to Missionali, where we study the Bible, we live it, and we share it with the world. Now, before we actually get into today's passage, let me go over a few helpful grammatical and pronunciation tips. Number 1, take note of the accents. For example, the word confía, which means to trust or confide, needs to have the emphasis of pronunciation on the I. So it is confía. Corazón, which means heart, is pronounced corazón. Easy, right? Muy bien. Tip number 2, remember the agreement of number. For example, tu camino is your way. Tus caminos means your ways. In English, the possessive your stays the same in both examples, but in Spanish you have to modify the possessive depending on whether it's single or plural. Tu camino and tus caminos. For the third and final tip, let's see how to properly pronounce this somewhat long word, entendimiento, which means understanding. The emphasis needs to be on the second to last syllable, mien, which is pronounced as two quick sounds blended together, mien. So the whole word would be entendimiento. ¿Todo claro? All clear? Sí? Excelente. Now, today, I'm only going to focus on these two verses, but do take some time to read the entirety of Proverbs chapter 3, Proverbios capítulo 3. I truly believe it is one of the most incredible chapters in the entire Bible. As usual, I'll be using the NBLA version, La Nueva Biblia de las Américas. As we go through each verse, I'll go over grammatical tips and word translations. Finally, I'll leave links to a couple of videos that I made that describe more Spanish grammatical rules using biblical passages. These will truly help to improve your Spanish comprehension. So now, without further explanation, let's begin. Proverbios, capítulo 3, versículo 5. Confía en el Señor con todo tu corazón. This means trust in the Lord with all your heart. Now, it is really rare that a Spanish and English sentence match each other word for word. Here, however, it happens to be the case with this translation. See, they match up perfectly. Confía en el Señor con todo tu corazón. Now, I want to briefly touch on the word confía. It comes from the verb confiar, and it means to trust or to confide. This particular form of the verb, confía, is actually in what they call the imperative tense. That simply means that it is a command. So when the verse says, trust in the Lord, it is not a suggestion or a recommendation, but an actual command. En otras palabras, in other words, to not trust in the Lord would be to disobey our God. This really changed my perspective when I figured this out. ¿Todo claro? Muy bien. Let's move on to the second half of the verse. Proverbios capítulo 3, versículo 5. Y no te apoyes en tu propio entendimiento. This literally means, and do not support yourself with, or lean on, your own understanding. Basically, don't try to do everything yourself and think that you have all the answers. Now, as we saw before with confía, the combination no te apoyes, do not lean, is also in the imperative or command form, but this time it's in the negative. The Lord is commanding us, not suggesting, to not lean on our own personal entendimiento, understanding. I believe the force of the command comes out stronger in the Spanish version. Now, I really hope that you're enjoying this as much as I am because, my amigos, this is good stuff. Proverbios, capítulo 3, versículo 6. Reconócelo en todos tus caminos. This means recognize him or acknowledge him in all your ways. Now, again, for the third time, we see that another verb, reconócelo, is in the imperative tense, the command form. Now, I think the Lord is trying to tell us something here. If the Lord repeats something twice, you better pay attention. If he says it 3 times, then you might as well write it down, memorize it, and never forget it, mis amigos. This particular word is actually made up of a verb, reconoce, and an object pronoun, lo. Reconoce, again, is in the command form of the verb reconocer, and lo is the object pronoun that is representing him, the Lord. In Spanish, there are actually 3 instances where a verb and an object pronoun can be combined to make one word for easier pronunciation. The command form just happens to be one of them. The other 2 will be for another video. Now, the other thing I want to note here is tus caminos, which means your ways. If I wanted to put this in the singular, I'd simply say tu camino. See how both words agree with each other in terms of number? Now, if you remember, this is the same example that I gave earlier. Repetition, repetición, is always good when learning a language. ¿De acuerdo? Agreed? Excelente. Now, the last thing I want to mention is the difference an accent would make to the word tú. Without an accent, it means your, as we see here. But if we add an accent and make it tú, the word becomes you. Hopefully, this is all becoming a little bit clearer. ¿Sí? Muy bien. Proverbios, capítulo 3, versículo 6. Y él enderezará tus sendas. This literally means, and he will straighten out your paths. Now, I really like the picture that this paints here. Basically, the Lord is saying, your paths are crooked, and you're taking a long and unnecessary road. If you trust and acknowledge me, then I will straighten out the road you're on and will make life less complicated. The word enderezará is in the future tense of the verb enderezar, which means to straighten. Here's the phonetic equivalent of this word. Enderezará. Finally, tus sendas means your paths. It is very similar to tus caminos, your ways, like we saw in the first half of this verse. ¿Todo claro, amigos? All clear, my friends? Excelente. Again, I didn't cover every single word or explain every grammatical rule, but you should have sufficient material to keep improving your Spanish. And since you now have a much better understanding of what these verses mean and how they're put together, let me read them in their entirety in Spanish, and I'm absolutely sure that you will understand them even better than you thought you would. Confía en el Señor con todo tu corazón, y no te apoyes en tu propio entendimiento. Reconócelo en todos tus caminos, y Él enderezará tus sendas. Well, mis queridos amigos, my dear friends, I truly hope that you found this teaching helpful and that you enjoyed it. If so, then please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with others. Por favor, please, continue to leave your comments for suggestions on future videos, or if there's a particular passage that you'd like to learn in Spanish, then please leave that below in the comments. As always, mis amigos, thank you so much for watching, and Lord willing, I will see you in the next video.